It's Josh.
And Aaron,
We would like your help to grow our channel.
if we can grow to 8,000 subscriptions,
We're going to give you this Indominus box.
the rules are simple. Subscribe to the channel now, and when we reach 8,000 subscribers, we're going to put out a special thank you video. Everybody who comments on that video will be entered to win this Indominus box.
Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell button.
Will people follow?
I hope so. This episode brought to you by Soul Crushing Defeat and by subscribers like you. Hey everybody, Aaron here from the Cool Guys Nation, and today I am challenging Dm Scotty to a battle of wits, of will, and of skill. We are going to be choosing trash from around our house, and we are going to be making Dungeons and Dragons role-playing monsters from garbage from our house. The rules are simple. You got to use garbage, and it's going to be voted on by Josh, Big Aaron, and Sean for who's the winner of this trash monster challenge. Aaron from CGN versus Dm Scotty. Scotty, I pass it off to you. Just kidding, obviously you're down this way. We are rummaging through the CGN storage, looking for some nice trash to make our monster from. So I grabbed some random bits and rocks and a bucket. So here's my secret weapon, the mother load. These are all of my son's discarded bath toys, and they've been discarded because they got real gross. So they need to be washed. A lot of them are rotten. This one's all cracked, but we got some cool things in here that we can cut apart to make our awesome trash monster. You didn't know I had a box of garbage bath toys, did you, Scotty? I decided that I want to try and make some weird carnivorous animal plant creature thing, so I'm just gonna really quickly sketch this out in Photoshop, and then I'm gonna take a look at all of the different garbage and stuff that I've collected to see what I can make. So these are the items that I've picked. It's a bunch of different animal toys and the top of a volcano, as well as some plunger things and this pink thing of sticks. I'm just gonna go ahead and see what I can make with this. I'm definitely gonna be using the arms and the tentacles and stuff. So I removed all of the tentacles and the arms, and now I am just going to be gluing them around, trying to make sort of a mouth. I'm going to be using the crab claws as the main instrument of death. So I'm just going to try to turn this volcano into sort of a crustacean mouth monster. I decided to use one of my test Primaris models. This is one of the models I did a whole bunch of painting on, and I'm gonna cut him in half, and then I'm going to have him being torn asunder by the crab claws. I also grabbed a bunch of my really old Tyranid bits. Now, I've had these bits for over 10 years, and they have not been used. I'm gonna use some of the Tyranid terrain as the inside of the mouth, and I'm gonna use some of the adrenal sacs in order to make the volcano look more like a coral or creature. My favorite part of this build definitely was using the smaller tentacles and the legs from the crab and the squid in order to wrap them up and make the intestines for the Space Marine. Now that we're done assembling, we are going to prime our monster. We're going to do a zenithal prime with a white and black. Here it is all primed. It's really coming together. I haven't figured out how I'm going to paint it, whether or not I'm going to use the airbrush or contrast paints. The only thing I know is that I'm really excited to paint blood for the blood god on the intestines. I know that. I know I'm excited about that. Otherwise, we're going to figure out how to paint it. But right now we got to make a base, so that's what we're going to work on. Okay, so The rules are that we have to use garbage, and I want to use the laser cutter. So in order to not cheat, I am going to use pieces that have already been cut in order to make my base. So I'm going to use this one. It's not cheating. I guarantee. Using this half is not cheating because this half makes the whole thing garbage, not cheating. I think it'll be big enough to make a base. I'm pretty happy. Not cheating. So my scrap wood, I say, has an usable area of about 10 by 12. And with the restrictions of the Glowforge, it's really like 9 by 11. The footprint is 4 inches. So if I wanted 2 inches on either side, then I'm gonna need like some sort of like 8-inch, 8 by 6 oblong in order to make like a cool watery mouth. Yeah, so let's just keep that in mind. 8 by 6, 9 by 6 should be doable. Using Illustrator, I just quickly mocked up a oblong lake type base, and I also built a rim for it so that we can add some water effects to make it look like this rock is not just actually a rock, but a scary monster hiding in a lake. This is how our monster is going to fit on the base. It's looking like we cut it out to the perfect shape. I'm excited to move on. The next step is to paint our monster, and then we will finish the base at the end and glue it all together and add some water effects. It is time to start painting. I did sort of a test paint on this crustacean, and I really like this sort of purple to brown transition and some of these pinks and purples over there. Felt like the green was a little bit too heavy, but this blue isn't bad. So we're gonna figure out how to make this like a coral crab monster. To do that, I'm mostly using contrast paints, and I've grabbed Ayindin Yellow, Gorgrunta Fur, Arithmetic Blue, Vulpus Pink, Skyish Purple, sure, Magos Purple, and Griffhound Orange. That's what we're gonna do. So let's get painting. And obviously, I am extremely excited to paint his intestines and use blood for the blood god. Okay, so I want it to be like a coral monster. So I looked up some pictures of coral, and I'm gonna do like a dark brown with maybe some lighter blue accents, but we're gonna start with Gorgrunta Fur. And we're just gonna slosh it all over. This is something that I really like about the contrast paints, is like the white to black gradient that I did with the spray paint. I mean, look at that. The contrast paint just like makes it look so good. So we have sort of our base down, and there's a bunch of like white details inside of some of these Tyranid pieces that I added. So I'm just gonna take a fine tip brush, and I'm gonna make sure that I get this down inside all of those areas so there's no weird like super white parts. So for the inside, I want kind of like a scary fleshy color. Like it's not really a rock, it's more like a living creature, and you're getting broken apart and put into its digestive tract. I don't know, maybe it's a cloaca, I don't know what it is. I'm gonna use Vulpus Pink on the inside, and we might have to do a wash on that a little bit later to tone it down, but that's where we're gonna start. And we'll probably get some pink on some of the tendrils and stuff, but again, we can deal with that later. Oh yeah, that's real gross and fleshy. So layering contrast paint is real fun too. You can actually do a lot with it, and I am layering the edge of this to make that brown to pink transition, so you get from like this, maybe it's just a rock, to, oh god, it's a living creature that's ripping things apart and eating them, you know. And we're just using that transparency of the paint to kind of to cheat our way into, I don't know if it's really cheating, but you know, to hack our way into doing this. So now we got the main body done, and we got the inside done. So now we need to figure out what we're gonna do for all of the tentacles and legs and things like that. So originally I was thinking sort of like a blue crab look, where if you ever seen a blue crab, like sometimes their shells are more like a dark green and their claws are like a red or a blue. But I actually found this really cool salt marsh crab, which is sort of like a light tan and brown. It almost has some deep purple and black, but it's more like a yellowish brown with purple highlights. And so I think that's what we're gonna do. I think we're gonna do like this yellowish brown into purple, so that it sort of fades into the rock, so it's still kind of camouflage from far away. We're gonna do these tentacles as some super bright color, and then we're gonna do the claws as sort of like orangish pink, vibrant, and we'll figure out what color the torn apart space marine is. These nodules I want to do like coral, and so coral a lot of times has like a brown base, which is what we've already done, but then it might have like a pink or blue highlight. But for right now, we're going to start on all these tentacles using these yellows and browns and purples. So what we're going to do is we are going to use a Gryph-hound orange and Magos purple on the bottom, and we're going to do Magos purple, and we're going to do it really quickly, and we're just going to wet blend them kind of together right here along with that Xanath highlight, which is one of the great things about contrast paint. You just got to move quickly because we don't want that to dry. We want to get this purple on. And there we go. Now we're just going to do that to all the legs. Okay, I'm done with all of the first set of legs and tentacles. Now I'm just going to lift this up, and I'm going to clean up any spilled paint, and then using my paper towel, I'm just going to go back in and try to dab up some drips. And now we need to let that dry before we move on to the next part, which is going to be these inside tentacles and these bigger tentacles. And we're going to be doing the claws and the space marine last. So I haven't tested this out. I'm going to do these bigger tentacles in Aethermatic blue. Just feeling it. I'm feeling it, so I'm doing it. Oh yeah, that's great. And I think when we add the blood for the blood god technical, it's gonna be even better. All right, so we're gonna do this tentacle over here that broke off the power sword. You know a space marine is in trouble when a tentacle breaks your power sword in two. Oh yeah, that was the right decision. I think these little inside tentacles, I think we're just gonna stick with the pink theme. Like once these things get the little tendrils wrapped around you, you're going in the mouth. You're going inside that cloaca. I wonder if like shrimp's mouth or siphonophores' mouths, I wonder if they have a word for that. I'm gonna look that up. I'll be right back. Okay, I learned something new. It's called the maxilla, which is the jaw or jawbone, specifically the upper jaw in most vertebrates. In humans, it also forms part of the nose and the eye sockets. However, in orthopods, which I guess this is an orthopod, in orthopods, it is each pair of mouth parts used in chewing. Yeah. So we are painting the maxilla. We have our maxilla painted. I I blended some of this pink up into our tendrils, and I added some of it to where the suckers are. And I'm just actually gonna do a little bit more of that right now. Just a little bit more of that right now. Which brings us to the most critical part of this phase, and that is the claws and the Space Marine. Before we get to the claws and the Space Marine, I'm going to do a quick dry brush of lilac onto these little raised things. We're going to paint the Marine, and we're going to be using contrast black. Next, we're going to paint the intestines. We're going to paint the head flesh tone. So we're in a pretty good spot, and that just leaves the crab. And so I think for the crab, I'm gonna do Griffhound Magos blend. I got a little bit too much pulling, so I'm just gonna dab some of it off. And I think we have a really nice blend between those two colors. My next step is that I need to hot glue this down to my base, and I need to attach the ring to the base. I also need to attach a whole bunch of detail pieces so that when I add the water effect, it's gonna look really cool. I'm very excited for it. Now, hot glue is important because it's not going to interact with the water effect that I use. Scotty! So I don't get to use hot glue, which means that I have to use white glue. So thanks a lot, Scotty. Now it's gonna take me overnight to make my base and get it dry. Okay, it's time to make our base. I've got some water effects. I thought this would be a great project to use it for. I'm gonna do like some sort of, I don't know, swampy pit. I have my cutouts, and now I need to glue my edge on, and then I'm going to be adding bits and bobs. We're gonna paint it up, glue this down, and then we're gonna add the water effect, and hopefully I don't mess it up. I also have some basing stuff that I'm gonna use that I'm gonna have in that water effect as well. I'm going to apply some pressure to make sure that that holds. It's been a couple minutes. We are using super glue, so that should be long enough. We just kind of want to roughly place this. We're not going to glue this on yet, but we want to make sure that we don't interfere with it. So the first thing that we're going to do is a line of sand around the edge, and then maybe some clumps, and then we'll take this out and spray paint it. Okay. Don't glue stuff there, Aaron. Okay, we're gonna let that dry for a couple hours and then we'll be back to add some more details to our base. Next, we are going to add a little bit more glue, and then we are going to add a second layer of sand only. Lastly, we are going to add some moss and foliage. We're going to glue this straight down to the base, and then we are going to prime on top of it. It's looking really nice. We're just going to test fit our monster, and then we are going to take this out to prime. We're going to do a dry brush of Doombull Brown, and then I think we are going to glue down our model. And that'll be that. We're gonna add our water effect. And I haven't used water effects in a really long time. So I super duper duper hope that I don't mess it up. Decided that I wanna add a black wash, so we're gonna use some Vallejo Black, which is not my favorite wash, but it should do the trick. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and let that dry, and then we are gonna glue on our monster, and we are gonna lay down the water effect. So we have realistic water effect and sage green. I have never used this stuff before, so I'm gonna quickly do a test before we put it on our model. So I think that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and try this stuff out. Just gonna fill one. We're gonna do about 6 drops. And then we're gonna mix that first. Oh yeah, that's like really, really gross, putrid. That's perfect. So there we have it. Our display is done. Hopefully this will set nicely. I can go back in and repaint the edge. But yeah, there's the diorama. Got a little bit more of this black sort of like leaking around, but I think that actually is kind of a cool, happy accident. So we're gonna let this sit overnight, and then we'll send our pictures off and we'll see who the winner is.
So looking here at both Aaron and Scotty's entries, I think I have to give, they're similar, but different enough. Real quick, short breakdown. What I love about Aaron's is he put a lot of time into the base itself. It's very gooky and sticky and yucky. I love all that stuff. Maybe a little much on the blood, but the ooze definitely makes up for it. Scotty's a little bit more barren, but I like that it's kind of modular. Okay, you can kind of move some stuff around. Overall, I think I'm going to have to give Dm Scotty's a 4 out of 5. And I think I'm going to have to give Aaron's, can we do decimals? Yeah, okay. Then I think in that case, I have to give Aaron's a 4.25 for the ookie gookiness.
So looking at Aaron, it looks like he has a Space Marine getting ripped apart by a lovely bug situation. It's unpleasant. I definitely like the use of the entrails to hold the model together. I love that I can use that as an art critique. Good use of colors. It's definitely very gory. And then the actual piece itself, it's a lot of gross, yucky slime going on there. I definitely think that is a nice touch. It's well done. A bit of a larger terrain piece. I know from a War Machine standpoint, it would end up becoming a little bit on the larger side, but very whippy and dynamic. I like it. So as far as the overall dynamic piece, I would rate that from 1 to 5 as actually a 5. I definitely like the imagination used in that. Very, very fun. Functionality wise, probably a little lower, maybe along the lines of a 3, just because it could be a piece that gets in the way and I would be personally worried about breaking it. But I definitely enjoy it. Good aesthetic, good use of color. I'm gonna move on over to Scotty's. Scotty has a fun situation going on. More things being devoured. I feel like these are allegories of 2020 already. I am a fan of the fact that it has a before and after feature going on. So it's like a trap. And so you have, and he puts an example of the players out there, like, you know, what could possibly be going on under this rock? And then suddenly a sarlacc or something coming out. Not quite as whippy and strong aesthetically as the prior piece, especially the perfectly symmetrical circular base. But creativity wise, I appreciate that. I definitely like the functionality more on that, though I like the aesthetic on the previous piece more. So I would invert it and do a 3 for aesthetic, well, maybe more like a 4 for aesthetic, because it is pretty good, just not quite as top notch. And I think a 4 on the functionality as well. So there you go. There's my opinion on it. You boys hash it out.
Hey, this is Sean from Cool Guys Nation. I'm doing a review of Aaron and Scotty's trash-built terrain. So the first super interesting thing is that both of these guys came up with kind of like a greater Sarlacc type Star Wars idea of weird maw coming out of the ground, eating your miniature or whatnot. I think that the first thing to kind of like compare and contrast about them is it looks like Aaron used a little bit more of like found molded toys, whereas it looks like Scotty kind of sculpted his pieces out of garbage, right? So they're both definitely trash. But one's more found manufactured items, and the other is what looks kind of like an upside down lemon that's had glue sprayed all over it, with spikes sticking out of it. So you know, construction materials are a little bit different. I definitely think that Aaron does a little bit better with the color and the contrast of the item. You know, he used some of these brighter colors that really kind of stand out, including the blood for the blood god and the gore, you know, which were a fantastic tip. But you know, again, that kind of plays off of that found item type thing. So Scotty doesn't have quite that level of detail, but he did this super awesome fun thing where he's got a pre-monster popping out of the ground, and then a monster popped out of the ground. So he's kind of got like a before you get to the terrain, and then after you get to the terrain, you're interacting with it. So, I mean, definitely two very different takes on this very similar kind of idea. Both are, you know, incredibly well executed. Aaron's definitely his base is more intricate. He's got some water effects and some other type of items. It looks like some moss and some various little string pieces. But then, you know, you look at Scotty's and he has what appears to be some fish tank kind of plants. So I think they both kind of are in the same place with the accents on the actual area terrain base, insofar as, you know, using those found manufactured kind of things to really kind of sell the idea. So I think at the end of the day, what we're looking at is I love the blood and the gore and the amount of time that went into those entrails coming out of the Space Marine are just fantastic, you know, and then smear it all with some blood for the blood god, and you've got a piece of terrain to really make Dave happy. If you know Dave, or if Dave, you're watching this, I'm sure you enjoy that tremendously. But so that's going to kind of like push it above and beyond, in my opinion. So I'm going to end up giving Aaron like a 4.5 and Scotty like a 4.3. So super, super close. Both really, really cool ideas executed in very different manners, obviously, but you know, with both end up with a piece of terrain that I would absolutely love to have on my table, and quite honestly eat one of my miniatures, because that's the point. So I'm excited to see what everybody else rated these two pieces of terrain as, and obviously may the best hobbyer win.
All right, I'm here to give my scores for the Create a Monster from Junk in Your House from Dm Scotty and Lil Aaron. I'm going to go ahead and start off with Dm Scotty. Let's go ahead and see how many different things that he used, and he's got some rock templates, he's got the beast itself, he's got a little vegetation, so that's really cool. Now Aaron has a space marine, he's got some lichen, he's got some water effects going on, very cool. Both of them look really similar, which is really interesting. I'm gonna have to go with a 3.85 for Dm Scotty, and I'm gonna go with a 3.99 for Aaron. And here's why: is because I feel that Aaron's is probably gonna look more natural on the field with a weird oblong edge, where Dm Scotty's is like a big pie plate. And I feel it's a little unnatural. I do like all of the extra stuff that's on Dm Scotty, so they're very close. But I'm going to give this one to Aaron here, and I really like the little pincer claws from the baby toy he stole. So that's going to be my score.
Thank you so much, Dm Scotty, for indulging me in this challenge. What a fantastic time I had building it, and it's so amazing that we each came up with similar ideas. I would love to play with yours. I think that, in actuality, you followed the rules a little bit better than I did, so in my world, I think you're the victor. But thank you so much for playing. What a tight game. Final score came out to 16.15 for Scotty and 16.74 for myself. Round 1, I guess, goes to CGN. Scotty, we'll see you for round 2. And remember, as always, like and subscribe, hit that bell button so you never miss an update. Take your patronage to the next level by checking out our Patreon in the notes below. And as always, we'll see you on the table.